What's going on, everyone? Jeremy from the Quartering, and I think I've only done one other movie review. But this film, The Joker, that is, I felt like I had covered it so much. And many of you asked me to do a review. The reason I haven't done film reviews, and I don't think I ever really want to do many of them, is because I don't want my opinion to skew somebody's take on the movie. Just because I like something or I didn't like something doesn't mean that you can't enjoy that same thing. I know many of you know that. But I'm always afraid that, look, I see a lot of movies on opening night, but I don't want, maybe you let me know if this is the type of content that you would be interested in me adding to the channel. I know Angry Joe already kind of does that, and he does a decent job with his, but, I don't know. You let me know. If you like the movie review and you want to see more, leave a like on it and then tell me in the comment section down below. So Joker, a film, an origin story of Arthur Fleck, or Joker, a movie unfairly maligned by the mainstream media, perhaps fittingly, as Arthur himself was misunderstood in this film, probably most of his life. This movie, IRL, was, I think, I have to say, in my honest belief, purposely misunderstood and misrepresented by the media. Of course, you all know I covered endlessly the media's takes on how this was going to inspire people to do terrible things, and how it was all baloney. It's just a movie, just like it's just a video game. People do bad things, but movies don't make them do them. They do. Ultimately, they're the one choosing to do certain things. One of the biggest frustrations I had was this narrative that Joker was some sort of incel story. I didn't get that at all from the movie. I think at his root, Arthur Fleck is a man desperate for somebody to care about him, whether it was the woman in his building, whether it was Murray, the talk show host, whether it was his potential real dad. And by the way, I'm going to give you a mild spoiler warning, but if I spoil something, it's unintentional, or it's because I don't think it's that big of a deal for the plot. Arthur Fleck wanted to be loved deeply, I think. Wanted somebody to care about him in a world where literally nobody did, including society itself. It wasn't about a man who couldn't pick up chicks. That was literally zero part of the movie. Yes, he was single, and he did, for like 10 seconds of the movie, kind of fantasize about talking with or making a move on a woman in his building, but it was just one tiny piece in the insanity gumbo that was Joaquin Phoenix portraying Arthur Fleck. It was not a man frustrated about not having a woman. It was a man who was deeply disturbed, who had a terrible childhood. These are the two probably main factors in why he is the way he is. And it was a man that just wanted to feel like somebody cared about him, I think. He was desperate for it. You saw this in the way he tried to seek out his potential father. You saw it the way he fantasized about Murray Franklin, the late night host, saying something along the lines of, "I always wish I had had a son like you." It was just a fantasy. It never happened. In the movie, you see several scenes that I feel like when you see them happening, you think it's real. But you only find out later that it's just in his head. It never really happened. There are several cases like that. The film, from like a cinematography standpoint, just to talk about, the lighting, the set design, the soundtrack, these were all excellent. The soundtrack was probably an original score, other than Send in the Clowns. I could be wrong about that. But it wasn't like you were hearing a lot of pop hits or a lot of 80s music, or if you were, I wasn't recognizing it. It just felt like it fit perfectly in each scene. It was just that additional layer, that added a little extra tension. And if I could describe this movie in kind of, one word attempts, tension would be one of them. Uncomfortable would be another one. Stressful. The set design, it really felt like what I expected a dilapidated Gotham to look and feel like, and you could almost smell it. You could feel it on your skin, just the grime and the dirt and everything that was the city. It was visually both depressing and stunning at the same time, if that makes any sense. Everything was dimly lit. It was always kind of raining and overcast. These are all layers that add to the overall. Joaquin Phoenix, I'm not going to say he was better than Heath Ledger because the movie was very different, but he was freaking unbelievable. And I feel like a lot of people reviewing this film are kind of just saying that, yeah, Joaquin Phoenix was great. No, Joaquin Phoenix was great. His performance alone, you can't take your eyes off him at all on the set, on the stage, on the screen. You watch his every movement. You hear his maniacal laugh. Ha 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 ha. Like, you can't just say he was great and then move on to the next thing. He was legendary. He was Heath Ledger in Dark Knight, Joker legendary. Some might say even better. To me, it'd probably be a 1A and 1B. I don't know how Arthur Fleck, the dynamic with Batman, would have played off, because part of what made Joker so great in The Dark Knight was his interactions with Batman. A lot of reviews and even the trailers also, they kind of depict him as this leader of the clown world, so to speak. He wasn't that. I think he was almost like a deity. He was a manifestation of what the city was feeling. They didn't worship Arthur Fleck. Nobody really knew who he was until his big finale at the end, I suppose. Then, and only then, did you kind of see, but you saw the way people worshipped him. But he was not calling the shots. He was just in his own world. And I thought that was an interesting disconnect that a lot of people, when a lot of people hear Joker, you kind of think that he's like, pulling the strings and things like that. But that's not how it was. And I want to take a minute to talk about, by the way, some of the other actors and actresses in this film. Robert De Niro as Murray, fine. This film is truly about Arthur Fleck. Everybody else in this film, other than what I could say is maybe Penny Fleck, his mother, who's played by Frances Conroy, which you might know from 6 Feet Under or American Horror Story. She is great. Even though she has like limited speaking roles, she kind of plays that decrepit old lady very well. It's probably not a great compliment, but she did great. She did great. Everything she's in, for the most part, is great. The rest of the cast was relatively forgettable. You had Zazie Betts as Sophie Drummond, who was a mild love interest on the screen for like 5 minutes. You had Thomas Wayne on screen briefly as well. You had the detectives, which one of them was the guy from Boardwalk Empire, and Bill Camp. I don't know what he's from. I'm sure plenty of things. But the supporting cast wasn't really relevant. They were just kind of, I don't know. They weren't the main course. They were the vegetables that you kind of flicked off your plate, or you kind of accepted that they were there. They were the parsley. They were the things that, okay, I'm hungry apparently. Well, they were fine, but forgettable. De Niro as Murray Franklin, probably the second most memorable character after Penny and obviously Joker, Arthur Fleck. I mean, he's unlikable in real life, I think De Niro is. So he comes off as like this pompous guy pretty well, but that role could have been played by literally anybody, I think. There was a time in the movie, a line in the movie that was something like, there was a point where Arthur Fleck realizes and says out loud, "My life isn't a comedy, it's a tragedy," or something along those lines. And that was like, ooh, that hit. Like that was such a good moment in the movie. And this movie is really a 2 hour and 2 minute high rise tension wire walk. You are constantly waiting for him to snap. That's how I felt watching it. Like just bad, just nonstop bad things happening to Arthur Fleck. And you keep thinking to yourself, okay, now he's going to snap, or now he's going to snap. And it just keeps getting worse for him and worse for him and worse for him. The city abandons him. He goes off his meds. Finally, he snaps and dyes his hair, and you have this transformation into the Joker. And there are some really cool Easter eggs in this film that I won't talk about because I don't want to ruin it for people, but there is a Batman dynamic. There is some origin story with the Waynes. It's almost just like a little, if you blink, you missed it. But it was very cool, and I was not expecting it. The film, I love slow burn films, and ultimately that's what this was. And you can have a slow burn in a film, but that payoff has got to be good, right? You can look at even a movie like Tombstone, which I think is also a very slow burn film, but you have just an epic ending and payoff. You also have the fight at OK Corral too, the early battle. I think it was OK. I forget. You know what I'm talking about. The mid about 2 hours in, they have a fight. This movie's payoff is as good as it gets. My wife, who doesn't care about comic book movies at all, she still refers to Chris Hemsworth, like in all his roles, as Thor. She just likes him because he's a pretty man. I understand. I get it. Cool. She loved this movie. She's given 2 movies, when I talk to her when we leave the theater, she's given 2 movies that I can ever remember higher than a 90% score. One was a movie called It Follows, which she thought was like a 9 out of 10. 90 out of 100. We usually talk about out of 100 because it allows some wiggle room. She gave this movie like a 94. She was talking about it with a friend of ours in a very positive light. And this is something that she doesn't do for movies. Like I said, this movie is about as perfect of an origin story as you could get, but you don't have to care about Batman at all to enjoy this film. At the end of the day, Todd Phillips has put together something that I believe stands on its own outside of the DC universe or in it as one of the best films I've ever seen. I hope you enjoyed this review. If I had any drawbacks to this film, and I probably gave it a 93, I think. 92, 93. I had hoped for just a few precious more minutes of Joker on screen. If the movie, instead of being 2 hours and 2 minutes, was 2 hours and 15 minutes, and I got just 10 more minutes of Joker on screen as Joker in the transformation, even some just mild interactions with people on the street, I would have felt a little better about the film, but that is like extraordinarily nitpicky. But you got to have some negatives, right? If you don't have some negatives, then positives are irrelevant. The Joker, you wait an hour and 45 minutes for the transformation. Once it's there, it feels like it's over in a flash. That'd probably be my only gripe about it, and that's non-existent. This is definitely one of the first times I've wanted to go directly back in the theater and watch a movie like second time in a row. I would have gone and seen it the very next showing. I definitely want to see it again in the theater. And I think this will be one of those movies that gets better with time. You'll notice more subtle Easter eggs and you'll notice more things like that, which will make it worth rewatching. And I do think this will be a film that a lot of people see more than once in the theater. So congratulations to Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix, the DC Universe fandom, and origin stories everywhere, because this is the recipe for the perfect origin story. And I, for one, would love to see Todd Phillips do more origin stories like this. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video, and I really hope you enjoyed it. Above, you'll find some links to watch more videos, as well as a nice big button to subscribe, which I hope you'll do. If you did enjoy it, make sure before you go that you leave a like and a comment on the video, because you are the #1 reason this channel continues to grow, and I appreciate you.